The city of Moonhaven shimmered under a crescent moon, its spires piercing the velvet sky like fangs. Cobblestone streets buzzed with the supernatural elite, werewolves, witches, and ancient bloodlines, each chasing power in a world where legacy was everything. Amid the glittering chaos, Emily Voss moved like a ghost, her auburn hair tucked beneath a worn scarf as she hurried through the shadows towards Starlight Manor. At 23, her striking beauty, emerald eyes, and a delicate, fierce grace drew glances she ignored. Her focus was singular: survival for herself and her 13-year-old brother, Michael. Emily's boots clicked softly against the pavement, her breath visible in the crisp night air. She clutched her tattered bag, filled with recipe notes and dreams she dared not indulge. Starlight Manor, a beacon of opulence, loomed ahead, its crystal chandeliers casting golden light through towering windows. As a chef, Emily thrived in its kitchens, but tonight, her heart was elsewhere. "Michael, you ate the broth, right?" she'd asked that morning, her voice sharp with worry as she adjusted his scarf. Michael, pale but with her same green eyes and defiant spark, grinned weakly. "Every drop, Em. Stop fussing." His voice cracked, betraying the pain he hid. "You're not fooling me," Emily said, ruffling his hair. "Rest today. I'll be back before dawn." Now, as she slipped through the manor's service entrance, the clatter of pots and the scent of roasted herbs enveloped her. The kitchen was her sanctuary, where she wielded knives with precision and conjured dishes that whispered of magic. Her colleagues, a mix of shifters and humans, respected her skill but kept their distance, sensing her guarded nature. "Emily, you're late," barked Mara, the sous chef, her wolfish eyes narrowing. "The banquet's in 2 hours, and the Alpha's guests expect perfection." "I'm here now," Emily replied, tying her stained apron. "What's the menu?" Mara rattled off dishes: seared venison, truffle risotto. But Emily's mind drifted to Michael, alone in their cramped apartment. His rare autoimmune disease drained him daily, and the medical bills piled higher than Moonhaven's towers. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the rhythm of chopping and sautéing. As the night wore on, Emily's dishes earned murmurs of praise from the dining hall. A server, Lila, leaned in, whispering, "They say your food heals, Em. Like, it's got a spark of the old magic." Emily forced a smile. "Just spices and practice, Lila." But the rumours persisted, and deep down, Emily wondered. Her mother, long gone, had spoken of their bloodline's gifts, subtle, unproven. She shook off the thought, plating the final course. As she cleaned her station, a chill ran through her, like eyes watching from the darkness beyond the kitchen's glow. "Emily, you staying late again?" Lila asked, wiping down a counter. "Got to," Emily said. "Michael needs me home before he wakes." Lila nodded, her gaze softening. "You're a good sister, but you can't carry the world alone." Emily didn't reply, her thoughts on the shadowy figure she'd sensed outside. She finished her shift, the manor's lights dimming as she stepped into the night. The streets were quiet, but the air felt charged, as if Moonhaven itself held its breath. Somewhere, a wolf howled, and Emily's skin prickled. She hurried home, unaware of the eyes tracking her through the mist. Dawn painted Moonhaven in hues of gold, but Emily saw only the stark white of Michael's bedroom. He lay curled under a thin blanket, his breathing shallow. She checked his temperature, her fingers trembling as she noted the fever's stubborn grip. The fridge, stocked with syringes and vials, was a testament to her second role as his nurse. "You're hovering again," Michael mumbled, eyes fluttering open. "I'm fine, Em." "You're not," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "You didn't eat enough yesterday." He rolled his eyes, a ghost of his old mischief. "Your soup's too good. I'd eat more if I could keep it down." Emily's heart twisted. She forced a laugh, tucking the blanket around him. "I'll make something lighter tonight. Promise to try?" "Deal," he said, his smile fading as a cough shook him. She busied herself in their tiny kitchen, blending herbs into a broth she hoped would ease his pain. Her culinary skill was her anchor, a craft honed through years of hardship. Each dish she created carried a piece of her: love, defiance, hope. Rumors of its healing power followed her, but she dismissed them as fantasy. Still, she poured her heart into every meal, as if will alone could mend Michael. At Starlight Manor that evening, the kitchen hummed with urgency. A high-profile banquet for Moonhaven's council demanded flawless execution. Emily moved with quiet precision, her hands a blur as she crafted delicate sauces and intricate garnishes. "Emily, you're a machine," said Thomas, a line cook, tossing her a grin. "How do you make it look so easy?" "Practice," she replied, not meeting his eyes. She didn't mention the sleepless nights or the ache in her chest. Mara stormed in, her voice cutting through the chatter. "Voss, the head chef wants you on the dessert course. Don't screw it up." Emily nodded, her pulse quickening. Dessert was her forte, a chance to shine. As she sculpted a lavender mousse, she felt a strange warmth, like her hands were weaving more than ingredients. The kitchen staff watched, half in awe, as she worked. When the dessert reached the dining hall, applause echoed back. Lila rushed in, eyes wide. "They're calling it divine, Em. The council's head even asked for your name." Emily flushed, brushing it off. "Just doing my job." But as she left the manor, the night felt different. A rustle in the alley made her pause, her senses sharpening. "Who's there?" she called, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Silence answered, but the air pulsed with something ancient. She hurried home, the weight of unseen eyes lingering. In her apartment, Michael slept, unaware of the new symptom she'd noticed, a faint tremor in his hands. She sat by his bed, whispering, "I'll fix this, Michael. I swear." The hospital's sterile scent clung to Emily as she sat beside Michael's bed, her notebook filled with treatment schedules. His autoimmune disease was a relentless thief, stealing his strength and her peace. The doctor's words from that morning echoed. Surgery could stabilize him, but it's costly. Without it, he'll decline faster. "How much?" Emily had asked, her voice barely a whisper. "More than most can afford," the doctor replied, not unkindly. "I'm sorry, Ms. Voss." Now, she watched Michael sleep, his face peaceful despite the pain she knew he felt. She'd memorized his regimen: pills at dawn, injections at dusk. But it wasn't enough. The bills stacked on her table mocked her efforts. "You're staring again," Michael said, waking with a weak grin. "I'm not going anywhere, Em." "You better not," she said, forcing a smile. "You owe me a chess rematch." He laughed, then winced. "Deal, but you're going down." She adjusted his pillow, hiding her fear. "Rest. I've got work soon." At Starlight Manor, the kitchen was a storm of activity. Emily threw herself into her tasks, her knife slicing with mechanical precision. Mara noticed her distraction, snapping, "Focus, Voss. The elite don't eat mistakes." "I'm focused," Emily shot back, her tone sharper than intended. Mara raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Emily's dishes, as always, were flawless, but her mind was with Michael. She overheard servers gossiping about a mysterious letter circulating among the staff, hinting at a benefactor for those in need. Hope flickered, then faded. Such miracles were for others, not her. After her shift, she visited the hospital again, finding Michael sketching in his notebook. "Look, Em," he said, showing a drawing of a wolf. "It's you, fierce and unstoppable." Her throat tightened. "You're the fierce one, kid." As she left, a nurse stopped her. "Ms. Voss, a letter came for you." Emily took the envelope, its wax seal unmarked. Inside was a single line: "Your talent is noticed. Expect an opportunity." She frowned, unease prickling her skin. Back home, she tucked the letter away, checking on Michael. His tremor had worsened, a silent alarm. As she drifted to sleep, a howl echoed outside, stirring something wild within her. Starlight Manor buzzed with anticipation as Emily stepped into her new role as head chef. The promotion, hard won through years of grit, was a lifeline, though still insufficient for Michael's surgery. Her apron, stained but proud, was her badge of survival. Moonhaven's elite dined on her creations, unaware of the woman behind the plates, a woman who cared nothing for their games of power. "Emily, the council's here tonight," Mara warned. "No room for errors." "Understood," Emily said, her voice calm, but her hands steady as she prepped. The kitchen staff watched her with a mix of respect and curiosity, sensing her quiet strength. As she crafted a rosemary-crusted lamb, her thoughts drifted to the cryptic letter. An opportunity? It sounded too good to be true. She pushed it aside, focusing on the task. Her dishes were more than food. They were her defiance against a world that tried to break her. "Voss, this is art," Thomas said, peering at her plating. "How do you do it?" "Heart," she replied simply, not looking up. The banquet was a success, the council's praise filtering back through Lila. "They're calling you a prodigy, Em. Keep this up, and you'll be legend." Emily shrugged, cleaning her station. Legends don't pay bills. That night, she walked home under a full moon, her senses heightened. A rustle in the shadows made her pause. "Show yourself," she called, her voice cutting through the silence. Nothing answered, but the air hummed with energy. At home, Michael was awake, sketching again. "You look tired, Em," he said, concern in his eyes. "I'm fine," she lied, kissing his forehead. "Sleep." As she lay down, a primal pull stirred within her, like a call from the wild. She dreamed of running, her paws pounding earth, a black wolf at her side. She woke breathless, the dream too vivid, the pull too real. Morning light filtered through Moonhaven's fog as Emily prepared Michael's breakfast, her hands moving with practiced care. He ate slowly, his tremor more pronounced. "You're gonna win that chess rematch," he teased, his voice lighter than his body allowed. "Only if you let me," she shot back, hiding her worry. She left for Starlight Manor with a heavy heart, the city's grandeur a stark contrast to her private battle. The streets pulsed with whispers of an alpha's return, a figure of legend whose name sparked awe and fear. Emily ignored the gossip, her focus on Michael's next doctor's visit. In the kitchen, she worked with quiet ferocity, her dishes earning gasps from diners. Mara, usually sharp, softened slightly. "You're carrying too much, Voss. Let someone in." "No one's offering," Emily said, her tone clipped but not unkind. As she left that night, the air felt heavier, the shadows deeper. A figure moved, in the distance, too quick to identify. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice echoing. No reply came, but her wolf stirred, restless. At home, Michael slept, his sketches scattered. Wolves, always wolves. Emily sat by his side, her resolve hardening. Whatever stalked her, whatever destiny loomed, she would fight for Michael. But as she closed her eyes, the howl returned, closer now, and the shadows seemed to whisper her name. Emily Voss navigated Moonhaven's crowded streets, her scarf pulled tight against the autumn chill. The city's supernatural pulse, wolves prowling, witches whispering, felt distant compared to her worry for Michael. His worsening tremor haunted her, a reminder of the surgery he needed, but she couldn't afford. Starlight Manor's kitchen awaited, but today a new energy stirred within her, sparked by the cryptic letter promising an opportunity. At the manor, the kitchen buzzed with prep for a council dinner. Emily tied her apron, her hands steady despite her racing thoughts. Leela, the server, sidled up, her eyes bright. "Heard about the new beta in town, Em? Brandon Thorne Nightshade Pack. They say he's charming, noble, and single." "Not my concern," Emily said, slicing leeks with precision. "I've got enough on my plate," Lila grinned. "You say that, but a little romance might lighten the load." Emily snorted, but her focus wavered. That evening, as she served a rosemary-infused consommé, a tall figure caught her eye in the dining hall. Brandon Thorne, with sharp cheekbones and storm-grey eyes, exuded quiet authority. He met her gaze briefly, a smile flickering, before turning to his companions. After her shift, Emily lingered near the service exit, wiping down a counter. Brandon appeared, his presence filling the doorway. "You're the chef," he said, his voice warm. "That consommé was extraordinary. I'm Brandon." "Emily," she replied, wary but intrigued. "Just doing my job." "Your job's magic," he said, stepping closer. "Care to join me for a walk? I could use a guide in Moonhaven." She hesitated, Michael's face flashing in her mind, but something in Brandon's eyes, genuine, unguarded, pulled her in. "One walk," she said. "I've got to get home." They strolled through Moonhaven's lantern-lit streets, Brandon's easy humor thawing her guard. "You're not like the others here," he said. "No hunger for power." "Why?" "Power doesn't pay for my brother's medicine," she answered, her tone clipped. "Michael's all I care about." Brandon nodded, his gaze softening. "I get it. Families, everything. My pack's my anchor, but it's complicated." Their walk stretched into hours, laughter mingling with shared stories. Brandon spoke of his pack's traditions, Emily of her kitchen battles. By the time she returned home, dawn was breaking, and Michael was awake, sketching wolves. "You're late," he teased, eyeing her flushed cheeks. "Something happen?" "Just a walk," she said, ruffling his hair. "Sleep, kid." But as she lay down, Brandon's smile lingered, and a dangerous hope bloomed. That night, she dreamed of running as a wolf, a grey shadow at her side, and woke with a start, sensing eyes in the darkness outside. Emily's days blurred between Starlight Manor and Michael's bedside, but Brandon Thorne's presence became a bright thread in her grey world. Their secret meetings, stolen moments in Moonhaven's hidden gardens, ignited dreams she'd long buried. Brandon's charm, his stories of pack loyalty, made her believe in love, despite her low status. "You're more than this city sees," he told her one evening, his hand brushing hers under a willow tree. "Come to my family's estate tomorrow. I want them to know you." Emily's heart raced. "Your pack's elite, Brandon. I'm just a chef. You're my choice," he said firmly. "They'll see what I see." The next day, she arrived, at the thorn-covered nightshade estate, her best dress feeling inadequate. Brandon greeted her warmly, but his family's cold stares cut deep. Lady Vera, his mother, sneered, "A street girl! Brandon, you jest!" "She's exceptional," Brandon said, but his voice faltered under their scrutiny. "Exceptional for a kitchen, perhaps," Vera said, her eyes like ice. "You have no lineage, no pack. You're a burden." Emily's chest tightened, but she held her chin high. "I came because Brandon asked. I won't beg for your approval." Brandon remained silent, his jaw tight. The room's disdain suffocated her, and she left, her dignity intact, but her heart bruised. Outside, she leaned, against a tree, fighting tears. Brandon followed, his expression torn. "I thought they'd understand," he said. "I was wrong." "You didn't defend me," she said, her voice steady despite the ache. "I trusted you." "I'm sorry," he mumbled, but his eyes avoided hers. "I'll fix this." She walked away, the estate's gates closing behind her. At home, Michael sensed her pain. "What happened, Em?" he asked, his small hand on hers. "Just a bad day," she lied, forcing a smile. "How's your drawing?" He showed her a wolf sketch, fierce and proud. "It's you," he said. "Don't let them dull your claws." She hugged him, her resolve hardening. As she cleaned the kitchen, a howl echoed outside, and the air felt charged, as if fate was stirring. Emily threw herself into her work at Starlight Manor, her heartbreak fueling her focus. Brandon's betrayal stung, but she refused to crumble. Her dishes, infused with passion, drew gasps from diners, and even Mara nodded approval. "You're on fire, Voss," she said. "Whatever's driving you, keep it." "It's not a choice," Emily replied, her knife flashing. That evening, Brandon waited outside the manor, his face shadowed. "Emily, we need to talk," he said. His voice low, she crossed her arms. "You had your chance at the estate." "I know I failed you," he said, stepping closer. "But my pack, they'll never accept you. Or Michael. You're too different." Her eyes blazed. "Different? You mean a burden? Say it, Brandon." He flinched. "You don't belong in my world. I thought we could be mates, but I was wrong." The word mates hit like a blade. "You don't get to decide that," she said. "I offered you my heart, and you let them tear it apart." "I'm protecting you," he said, his voice breaking. "This is goodbye." She turned away, her pride holding back tears. "Goodbye, Brandon." At home, Michael was sketching, his tremor worse. "You okay, Em?" he asked, his eyes searching. "I will be," she said, kissing his forehead. She cooked him a simple broth, her hands trembling not from sorrow but resolve. As she worked, a black wolf appeared in her mind's eye, its presence primal and steady. She shook it off, focusing on Michael's smile. That night, a knock startled her. Lila stood at the door, holding a flyer. "Em, this culinary competition, $500,000 prize. It could change everything for Michael." Emily's breath caught. "When is it?" "Tomorrow," Lila said. "You're ready. Show them who you are." As Lila left, Emily clutched the flyer, hope battling fear. Outside, a shadow moved, and a low growl rumbled through the night. Moonhaven buzzed with rumors of Damien Vare's return, the reclusive alpha of the Crescent Pack. His name carried weight, billionaire, legend, a wolf whose presence commanded silence. At Starlight Manor, Emily overheard servers whispering about his cold charisma and the council's pressure for him to choose a Luna. "Damien Vare's back?" Thomas asked, tossing a dish towel. "Bet every she-wolf's plotting to be his mate." "Not me," Emily said, kneading dough. "I've got enough battles," Mara snorted. "Smart. Alphas like him don't notice people like us." But Emily felt a strange pull, like a thread tugging her soul. That night, Damien stood in his isolated estate, the city's lights a distant glow. Solitude was his armor, forged by a childhood of wealth and loss. Yet, as he gazed at the moon, a sweet scent, vanilla and moonlight, stirred his wolf, awakening instincts long buried. "Find her," his wolf growled, primal and urgent. He drove into Moonhaven's forest. The scent guiding him, the trees parted, revealing a world of shadow and starlight. His wolf itched to run, to chase the pull that promised more than solitude. Back in her apartment, Emily slept fitfully, her dreams filled with a black wolf's piercing eyes. "Em, you okay?" Michael asked the next morning, his voice weak. "Just a weird dream," she said, checking his fever. "You feeling up for a story?" He grinned. "Always." As she read to him, the competition flyer lay on the table, a beacon of hope. But the forest call lingered, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was coming. Damien Vare's black SUV cut through Moonhaven's forest, the moonlight casting shadows on his sharp features. The scent, sweet, wild, drove him deeper, his wolf clawing for release. He parked, shifting into a massive black wolf, and ran, the earth alive under his paws. Then he saw her, a white she-wolf, her fur glowing like starlight, her grace unmatched. They ran together, no words needed, their bond ancient and unspoken. At a moonlit lake, their forms, black and white, mirrored perfectly. Damien's wolf howled, but she vanished, leaving only her scent. He shifted back, human but changed, the longing of fire in his chest. "Who are you?" he whispered to the night. In her apartment, Emily woke gasping, her body aching as if she'd run for miles. The dream was vivid, a black wolf, powerful yet gentle, running beside her. She checked on Michael, who slept soundly, his sketches scattered. One drawing, a white wolf, made her pause. You look spooked," Michael said, waking. "Bad dream?" "Good and bad," she said, forcing a smile. "Big day today, the competition." "You'll win," he said, his faith unwavering. "You're unstoppable." She hugged him, the black wolf's eyes haunting her. As she prepared for the competition, the forest's pull lingered, and a shadow passed her window, unseen but felt. Emily Voss woke with a jolt. The memory of a moonlit run burning in her veins. The black wolf's presence lingered, a primal echo that stirred her wolf and unsettled her heart. She pushed it aside, focusing on Michael, who was sketching at their small kitchen table. His hands trembled more than yesterday, but his grin was defiant. "You're staring, Em," he said, not looking up. "I'm fine." "You're not," she replied, setting a bowl of oatmeal before him. "Eat. We've got a big day." "The competition." Michael's eyes lit up. "You're going to win that prize, right? For the surgery?" Emily forced a smile. "The $500,000 prize, a beacon of hope." "I'll try, kid. Now, eat." At Starlight Manor, the kitchen was a whirlwind as Emily prepared for the culinary competition. Lila bounced in, her energy infectious. "Em, the whole city's talking about this contest. Even the Crescent Pack's alpha might show." "Damien Vare?" Emily asked, her knife pausing mid-chop. The name sent a shiver through her, though she couldn't say why. "Yup," Lila said. "Imagine cooking for him. You'd have Moonhaven at your feet." "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," Emily said, but her thoughts drifted to the black wolf. She shook it off, focusing on her prep. Herbs, spices, and a touch of something intangible that made her dishes sing. The competition venue, Moonhaven's grand arena, glittered with crystal and velvet. Emily stood backstage, her mother's silver knife in hand, grounding her nerves. Michael, bundled in a scarf, sat in the front row, his faith in her a quiet strength. As she stepped onto the stage, a strange awareness hit her. A gaze from the VIP balcony, intense and unyielding. "Focus, Voss," she muttered, arranging her ingredients. The first round began, and she moved with precision, crafting a smoked trout tartare. The crowd murmured approval, but the gaze from above never wavered. She glanced up, catching a glimpse of Damien Vare, tall, dark, and radiating power. Her wolf stirred, and she nearly dropped her knife. "Em, you okay?" Lila whispered, passing by with a tray. "Fine," Emily lied, her heart pounding. She finished the round, her dish earning praise, but the alpha's stare left her rattled. As she prepared for the next course, Michael's cough echoed from the crowd, and her focus sharpened. She had to win, for him. Backstage, Lila squeezed her arm. "You're killing it, Em. But what's with you and that alpha?" "Nothing," Emily said too quickly. "Just nerves." But as she returned to the stage, the black wolf's eyes haunted her, and the air crackled with something inevitable. The grand arena pulsed with anticipation as Emily faced the main course round. The judges, Moonhaven's culinary elite, watched closely. But it was Damien Vare's gaze from the VIP balcony that burned into her. His presence was a storm, dark suit, piercing eyes, and an aura that silenced the room. Emily's wolf growled, softly, recognizing something she couldn't name. She crafted a venison loin with juniper glaze, her hands steady despite the weight of his stare. "Stay focused," she whispered, channeling her fear into her work. The dish was flawless, the flavors weaving a story of forest and fire. The crowd erupted in applause, and even Mara, watching from the sidelines, nodded. "Voss, You're making us look good, Mara said, her tone almost warm. Don't choke now. No chance, Emily replied, wiping her brow. But her eyes flicked to Damien, whose expression was unreadable yet intense. Her wolf thrummed, and she forced herself to look away. Backstage, Michael rushed to her, his face pale but beaming. That was amazing! You're gonna win! She hugged him, careful not to jostle his frail frame. Thanks, kid. One more round, as she prepped for the dessert course, a lavender panna cotta. She felt Damien's gaze again, like a touch on her skin. Her hands shook, and she cursed under her breath. Get it together, Emily. The round began, and she poured her heart into the dessert, its delicate sweetness a tribute to Michael's resilience. But before she could plate, Lila rushed in, her face ashen. It's Michael. He fainted. Emily's world tilted. She dropped her spatula, ignoring the judges' calls, and ran to Michael, crumpled in a chair. Michael, wake up! She pleaded, cradling his face. His eyes fluttered, but he didn't respond. Paramedics arrived, and Emily followed them into the ambulance, her knife still clutched in her hand. As the arena faded behind her, she glanced back, catching Damien's eyes, filled not with judgment, but concern. Her wolf howled, but she pushed it down, her focus on Michael. At the hospital, she sat by his bed, his breathing steady but weak. You're not leaving me, she whispered, her voice fierce. A nurse approached, her expression odd. Miss Voss, someone's paid for his surgery. All of it. Emily froze. Who? Anonymous, the nurse said. A miracle, isn't it? Emily nodded, stunned, but the Alpha's gaze lingered in her mind, a puzzle she couldn't solve. Moonhaven. General Hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed as Emily sat vigil by Michael's bedside. His collapse at the competition replayed in her mind, each moment a knife to her heart. The anonymous donor's gift, covering his surgery, felt like a dream, but doubt gnawed at her. Who would do this? And why? Michael stirred, his voice weak. Did you win? She squeezed his hand. Doesn't matter. You're what matters. He frowned. You gave up the prize for me? Always, she said, brushing his hair back. You're getting that surgery, Michael. Someone paid for it. His eyes widened. Who? No idea, she admitted. But I'm not questioning it. As Michael drifted back to sleep, Emily's phone buzzed. An unknown number. Ms. Voss, this is Starlight Manor, a curt voice said. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately. What? Emily's voice rose. Why? No reason provided, the voice said. Collect your things tomorrow. The call ended, and Emily's world spun. No job meant no income, no stability. She gripped Michael's hand, fighting panic. We'll figure this out, she whispered, more to herself than him. The next morning, as she checked Michael's chart, her phone buzzed again. Ms. Voss, this is Crescent Industries, a polished voice said. You're invited for an interview as personal chef to Alpha Damien Vare. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Emily's breath caught. I didn't apply. You were recommended, the voice said. We'll see you there. She hung up, her mind racing. Damien Vare, the Alpha whose gaze had unnerved her. Was he the donor? The black wolf from her dreams? She shook her head, focusing on Michael, who was sketching again, his tremor slightly better. You look spooked, Em, he said. What's up? Got an interview, she said, forcing a grin. Big Shot Alpha's chef. Michael's eyes lit up. That's huge! You'll nail it. She hoped so, but as she left the hospital, the city felt different, charged, watchful. A shadow flickered in an alley, and her wolf stirred, sensing a presence that wasn't Brandon Thorne's. Emily stood before Crescent Tower, its glass spires piercing Moonhaven's skyline. Her best dress felt like armor, too thin against the weight of the unknown. She'd left Michael with a trusted neighbor, his hopeful smile her only anchor. The interview was a chance, a lifeline. But the Alpha's name, Billionaire, stirred unease and curiosity. Inside, the tower was a labyrinth of marble and steel. A receptionist led her to a sleek boardroom where a panel of suited figures awaited. "Ms. Voss," a woman said, her voice crisp, "your culinary reputation precedes you. Why do you want this role?" "I don't know who recommended me," Emily said honestly. "But I need this. My brother's sick, and I'll work harder than anyone to prove I'm worth it." The panel exchanged glances, nodding. "Your skills are known," a man said. "The Alpha values precision. Can you handle pressure?" "Always have," Emily replied, her chin high. The interview ended in 20 minutes, and the woman handed her a contract. "You're hired. Start tomorrow." "The Alpha expects perfection." Emily blinked, stunned. "That's it? That's it," the woman said, smiling faintly. "Welcome to Crescent Industries." As Emily left the boardroom, a familiar scent, vanilla and moonlight, hit her, and her wolf growled. She glanced around, but no one was there. In a distant office, Billionaire stood, his wolf pacing as her scent flooded his senses. He'd orchestrated her hiring, his donation for Michael's surgery a silent vow, but he stayed hidden, watching her leave. Back at the hospital, Emily shared the news with Michael. "Personal chef for an Alpha," he said, grinning. "You're basically royalty now." "Hardly," she laughed, but her heart raced. As she stepped outside, whispers reached her, gossip about the street girl hired by the Alpha. A group of she-wolves glared, their eyes venomous. Emily ignored them, but the air felt heavy, like a storm brewing. Emily returned to her apartment, the gossip about her new role at Crescent Industries buzzing in her ears. Moonhaven's elite were outraged, their whispers sharp as claws. She checked on Michael, who was sketching a wolf pack, his spirit brighter post-surgery. "You're famous, Em," he teased. "Alpha's chef. Bet they're jealous." "They can be," she said, ruffling his hair. "As long as you're okay." That night, as she packed for their move to Crescent Estate, a knock startled her. 3 she-wolves stood at her door, their beauty cold and predatory. "You're Emily Voss," one sneered, her voice dripping venom. "Think you can waltz into the Alpha's world? You're nothing." Emily's wolf bristled, but she kept her voice steady. "I was hired to cook, not compete. Step aside." "You'll never be Luna," another hissed. "Stay in your place, or you'll regret it." Emily shut the door, her heart pounding. She hugged Michael, who hadn't heard, and whispered, "We're okay, kid." But as she turned off the light, a crash shattered the night. The front door splintered, and 3 shadowy figures stormed in, their intent clear. The splintering crash of the front door jolted Emily Voss from her thoughts. 3 shadowy figures stormed into her Moonhaven apartment, their eyes glinting with malice under the dim streetlight filtering through the window. Michael, asleep in his room, remained unaware, but Emily's wolf surged, her instincts sharp, as the silver knife she grabbed from the counter. "Get out!" she growled, her voice low but fierce, the blade gleaming in her hand. The lead intruder, a wiry man with a scar across his cheek, sneered. "You think you can play in the Alpha's world, street girl? You're out of your depth." "I said, get out," Emily repeated, stepping forward, her heart pounding but her grip steady. Her wolf clawed at her restraint, itching to shift. Before the intruders could advance, a roar of boots echoed. Crescent Pack guards, clad in black, burst through the doorway, their movements swift and precise. The scarred man lunged, but a guard tackled him, pinning him to the floor. Within moments, the intruders were subdued, their curses muffled as they were dragged away. A tall guard approached Emily, his voice calm but firm. "Ms. Voss, you're under Alpha's protection. We're relocating you and your brother to Crescent Estate. Now!" Emily's pulse raced. "Who sent you? And who were they?" "Orders from the Alpha," the guard said, avoiding her second question. "Pack what you need. We leave in 10. She nodded, her mind spinning. She woke Michael gently, his sleepy eyes wide with confusion. What's happening? He asked, clutching his sketchbook. We're moving somewhere safer, she said, forcing a smile. Grab your stuff, kid. As they packed, Emily's thoughts churned. Damien Vere's protection felt like a lifeline, but the intruder's words echoed the she-wolf's threats. Why her? Why now? In the black SUV, Michael leaned against her, his warmth grounding her as Moonhaven's lights faded behind them. At Crescent Estate, a Gothic palace of stone and secrets, they were greeted by Elias, the butler, his warm smile a stark contrast to the towering halls. Welcome, Ms. Voss, young Michael, he said, bowing slightly. This is your home now. Michael's eyes sparkled. It's like a castle, Emily managed a laugh, but her senses stayed sharp, searching for Damien's presence. Elias led them through opulent corridors, promising a tour tomorrow. As they settled into their quarters, Emily felt the weight of unseen eyes, and her wolf stirred, restless. Crescent Estate's grandeur overwhelmed Emily as she unpacked in their annex, a cozy suite with velvet drapes and a view of moonlit gardens. Michael, thrilled, explored every corner, his sketches forgotten on the bed. This place is epic, he said, peering out the window. Think we'll meet the Alpha? Maybe, Emily said, her tone cautious. The night's attack lingered, and Damien's protection raised more questions than answers. She tucked Michael in, his exhaustion overtaking his excitement. Stay safe, he mumbled, already half asleep. Always, she whispered, kissing his forehead. Unable to sleep, Emily wandered to the estate's main kitchen, a gleaming expanse of marble and steel. She decided to prepare a late-night snack, hoping to ground herself. As she sliced apples for a tart, a shadow moved in the doorway. Damien Vere stood there, his dark eyes locking onto hers, his presence like a storm trapped in a man. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice low, almost a growl. Emily's knife paused. I'm your chef. Kitchens are my domain. His lips twitched, but his gaze was intense. You're bold, Ms. Voss. Most wouldn't challenge an alpha. I'm not most, she shot back, her wolf stirring under his scrutiny. Why am I here, Alpha Vere? The guards, the relocation, what's your game? No game, he said, stepping closer, his scent, pine and moonlight, flooding her senses. You're under my protection, that's all you need to know. For now, she said, holding his gaze. But I don't trust easily. He studied her, then turned abruptly. Go to bed, Emily. You start tomorrow. She finished the tart, her hands trembling, not from fear, but from the electric charge between them. As she left, she felt his eyes, on her, a silent promise of something unspoken. Morning light spilled through Crescent Estate's stained glass windows, casting colours across Emily's new quarters. Michael bounded in, his energy brighter post-surgery. Elias says there's a garden with a maze. Can we explore? After breakfast, she said, ruffling his hair. You need to eat. In the main kitchen, Emily met Mr. Benson, the stern head of the culinary team. Ms. Voss, he said, his voice clipped. The Alpha demands perfection. No staff lingers after nightfall except you. His orders. Emily raised an eyebrow. Why me? You're his personal chef, Benson said, as if it explained everything. Don't question it. She nodded, diving into prep for Damien's breakfast. The staff watched her with curiosity, some with envy. Thomas, from Starlight Manor, had joined the team, offering a familiar grin. Fancy place, huh, Voss? You're moving up. Trying to, she said, cracking eggs. You settling in? Barely, he laughed. This place is intense. Her omelette, infused with herbs, was a masterpiece, but a guard returned it. Alpha says it's not right, he said. Emily's jaw tightened, but she made another, her pride fueling her precision. At noon, Elias gave them a tour, Michael marveling at the estate's library and armory. This is like a fairy tale, he said, his eyes wide. More like a puzzle, she replied, sensing Damien's absence but feeling his presence everywhere. That evening she prepared dinner, only for it to be sent back twice. Frustration simmered, but she channeled it into a new dish, her hands weaving magic she didn't understand. As she cleaned, Lila called from Starlight Manor. Rumors are flying. They say you're the Alpha's pet project. Watch your back. Thanks, Lila, Emily said, hanging up. She glanced out the window, where a shadow moved in the garden, and her wolf growled, ready for whatever came next. Emily's second day at Crescent Estate began with a challenge. She prepared a breakfast of poached eggs and truffle toast, only for Damien to send it back. Too bland, the guard reported. Emily's temper flared, but she crafted another, her fingers trembling with defiance. In the kitchen, Benson watched her closely. You're talented, Voss, but the Alpha's standards are brutal. Don't take it personally. Hard not to, she muttered, plating a new dish. This one returned with a note. Better. Try harder. She cursed under her breath, but her wolf felt oddly alive, as if the challenge was a call. That evening, Damien summoned her to his study, a room of dark wood and ancient books. He stood by a window, his silhouette commanding. Your food's good, Emily, he said, not turning. But I expect extraordinary. Then tell me what you want, she said, her voice sharp. I'm not a mind reader. He faced her, his eyes piercing. I want you to push limits. You're more than you think. Her breath caught, his words stirring something deep. Why do you care? I'm just your chef. Are you? He asked, stepping closer, his scent overwhelming. Her wolf whined, drawn to him. He dismissed her abruptly, but his gaze lingered, conflicted. Back in the kitchen, she found Michael chatting with Thomas. This place is wild, Michael said. Tomas says the Alpha's got a secret vault. Rumors, Tomas said, winking. But the man's a mystery. Emily smiled, but her thoughts were on Damien. As she prepared a late snack, she felt his presence again, watching from the shadows. Her wolf urged her to confront him, but she held back, sensing a deeper game. Emily faced her third day at Crescent Estate with grim determination. Damien's relentless critiques, 5 breakfasts returned, each with a curt note, tested her patience. She crafted a 6-course lunch, each dish a masterpiece, but the guard returned with, acceptable. Do better. Acceptable, Emily snapped, slamming a pan. What does he want, perfection? Pretty much, Thomas said, leaning against the counter. He's testing you, Voss. Don't crack. I'm not, she said, her eyes blazing. She channeled her frustration into a dinner menu. Roasted quail, saffron risotto, and a chocolate torte with a hint of chili. Her hands moved with purpose, her wolf humming with energy. When the meal was served, Damien ate in silence, then sent a note. Close. Next time, perfection. Emily exhaled, relief mixing with exhaustion. Benson clapped her shoulder. You're getting there, Voss. He's never eaten a full meal before. Michael found her in the kitchen, his sketchbook under his arm. You look beat. You okay? Just surviving, she said, hugging him. How about you? Better, he said, showing a drawing of a black wolf. Dreamed of this guy. You ever see him? Her heart skipped. Maybe, she said, evading. As she cleaned, Damien appeared, his presence electric. Good work tonight, he said, his voice softer. You're stronger than most. Thanks, she said, wary. Why the tests? To see your fire, he said, then left, his words lingering. Emily's wolf howled, and she knew this was only the beginning. The morning sun filtered through Crescent Estate's towering windows, casting a warm glow over Emily Voss as she prepared breakfast in the vast kitchen. Her hands moved with practiced ease, crafting a dish of poached pears and brioche, but her mind replayed last night's encounter with Damien Vere. His words, "You're stronger than most," had sparked something in her, a mix of defiance and curiosity. Her wolf, usually restless, felt oddly calm, as if it trusted the alpha's fire. Michael bounded in, his post-surgery energy a fragile gift. This place smells like heaven," he said, eyeing the pears. "You making that for the alpha?" "Yup," she replied, plating the dish. "Hoping he doesn't send it back this time." "He'd be crazy too," Michael said, sketching a wolf on his pad. "You're the best." Emily smiled, but her nerves tightened as a guard took the tray. To her, shock, no note returned. Damien had eaten it all. Mr. Benson, the stern head of the culinary team, raised an eyebrow. "First time he's kept a dish, Voss. Don't get cocky." "Not planning to," Emily said, but her heart lifted. Later, Damien summoned her to his study again. The room was a fortress of books and shadows, his presence filling it like a storm. "Your breakfast was flawless," he said, his voice low. "Why did you push back last night?" Emily met his gaze, unflinching. "Because I'm not a pawn, Alpha Vare. You test me like I'm fragile, but I'm not. Tell me what you want, or stop playing games." He leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. "I was testing myself, Emily. Your presence challenges me. I'm not used to that." Her breath caught, his honesty disarming. "Then what now?" "A truce," he said, a faint smile breaking his stoic mask. "I'll ease up. You keep pushing your limits." "Deal," she said, her wolf humming with approval. As she left, his scent, pine and moonlight, lingered, and she felt a shift, like a door opening between them. Back in the kitchen, Tomas grinned. "Heard you got a pass from the Alpha, Voss. You're a legend." "Just surviving," she said, but her mind was on Damien's words. That evening, Michael showed her a new sketch, a black wolf beside a white one. "It's us, Em," he said. "You and someone strong." She ruffled his hair, uneasy. "Nice imagination, kid." But as she cleaned, a guard appeared saying, "The Alpha wants Michael at Crescent Tower tomorrow, a tour." Emily's heart skipped. "Why?" "His orders," the guard said, leaving no room for argument. As she tucked Michael in, her wolf stirred, sensing a new path unfolding. Emily woke to Michael's excitement, his eyes bright as he prepared for his day at Crescent Tower. "Em, I get to see the Alpha's world," he said, clutching his sketchbook. "Think he's got a bat cave?" she laughed, masking her unease. "Probably. Be good, okay?" "Always," he grinned, but his tremor reminded her of his fragility. In the kitchen, Emily focused on Damien's lunch, roasted duck with a cherry glaze, her hands steady despite her worry for Michael. Mr. Benson watched, his tone softer. "You're settling in, Voss. The Alpha notices." "Good to know," she said, but her thoughts were on Michael's safety. At Crescent Tower, Damien guided Michael through gleaming halls, explaining the pack's history with a patience that surprised the boy. "You're like a king," Michael said, awestruck. Damien chuckled, "More like a guardian. This pack is my family." "Like Em is mine," Michael said, showing his sketch of the wolves. "She's tough, but she worries." Damien's gaze softened. "She's lucky to have you." Back at the estate, Emily found a gift on her station, rare vanilla pods, their scent rich and warm. A note read, "For your next dish." D. Her heart raced. Damien's gesture was personal, deliberate. She crafted a dessert with them, pouring her gratitude into every step. That evening, Michael returned, buzzing with stories. Damien's cool. He showed me his office, and there's a sword on the wall." She hugged him, relief flooding her. "Sounds like you had fun." "He asked about you," Michael said, sly. "Think he likes you?" "Enough, kid," she said, blushing. As she prepared dinner, Damien appeared in the kitchen, his presence electric. "The vanilla was a nice touch," he said. "Your skills unmatched, Emily." "Thanks," she said, meeting his gaze. "Why the gift?" Because you deserve it, he said, his voice low. He left before she could respond, but the air hummed with unspoken promise. Her wolf whined, drawn to him, and she knew their bond was deepening, whether she was ready or not. Emily woke with a sense of purpose, her bond with Damien shifting like the tides. She prepared breakfast for Michael, who was still buzzing from his tower visit. Damien said I could come back, he said, munching toast. He's not scary like people say. He's still an alpha, she cautioned, but her heart softened at Michael's trust. In the kitchen, she crafted a lunch for Damien, lamb with rosemary and figs, her hands weaving magic she barely understood. Thomas leaned in, curious. You're glowing, Voss. Got a secret? Just cooking, she said, dodging his grin. But the vanilla pods lingered in her mind, a sign of Damien's care. At Crescent Tower, Damien showed Michael the pack's training, grounds where wolves sparred in human and beast form. This is strength, Damien said, gesturing to the fighters, but real power is protecting those you love. Like M protects me, Michael said, his eyes serious. She's the best, Damien nodded, his thoughts on Emily. She is. Back at the estate, Emily worked alone, the kitchen quiet. A guard delivered a note. Dinner tonight. 5 courses. Impress me. D. Her pulse quickened, the challenge igniting her fire. She planned a menu: scallops, risotto, venison, sorbet, and a chocolate tart. Each dish a testament to her skill. As she worked, Brandon Thorne appeared at the kitchen door, his presence like a storm cloud. Emily, he said, his voice smooth but edged. You've climbed high, haven't you? What do you want, Brandon? She asked, her knife pausing. To talk, he said, stepping closer. You're in over your head with Vare. Before she could respond, Damien entered, his eyes blazing. Leave, Thorne, he growled, his alpha aura suffocating. She's under my protection. Brandon smirked but backed away. This isn't over. Emily exhaled as he left, meeting Damien's gaze. Thank you, she said softly. He nodded, his expression softening. You're safe here. He left, but his presence lingered, a shield around her heart. Emily's hands trembled as she plated the 5-course dinner, Brandon's intrusion still rattling her. Damien's protection had been swift, but it raised questions. Why was Brandon back? She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the meal. The dining room was silent as Damien tasted each course, his nod of approval a quiet victory. Exceptional, he said, meeting her eyes. You've outdone yourself. Thank you, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Why the challenge? To see your strength, he said, his gaze intense. You never disappoint. She returned to the kitchen, her wolf humming. Michael was waiting, his sketchbook open. Em, you're a rock star, he said. Damien's, lucky to have you. We're lucky, she said, hugging him. As she cleaned, Elias approached, his smile warm. The alpha's pleased, Ms. Voss. You're making waves. Good ones, I hope, she said, but Brandon's words echoed. That night she found Michael asleep, a new sketch of 3 wolves, black, white, and a smaller one. Her heart ached with love and fear. As she stepped outside for air, a shadow moved in the garden. Who's there? She called, her wolf alert. No answer came, but the air crackled, and she knew danger was near. The full moon hung low over Crescent Estate, its light bathing the grounds for the pack's grand banquet. Emily stood in her quarters, staring at a gown delivered by Elias, silver and flowing, a gift from Damien. For tonight, the note read. She slipped it on, feeling like a stranger in her own skin. But Michael's gasp grounded her. Em, you're a queen, he said, his eyes wide. Hardly, she laughed, but her nerves churned. The banquet was a test, not just of her cooking, but her place in Damien's world. In the kitchen, she oversaw a team, her menu, a symphony of flavors. Oysters, pheasant, and a rose-infused mousse. Mr. Benson nodded approval. You're ready, Voss. The banquet hall glittered, filled with Moonhaven's elite. Emily served, her poise unshaken by their stares. Damien watched from the head table, his eyes never leaving her. As the final course landed, he stood, raising a glass. To Emily Voss, he said, his voice commanding. My mate, chosen by the moon. Gasps rippled through the room, Brandon's glare burning from a corner. Emily froze, her wolf howling with recognition. She met Damien's gaze, her heart pounding as the hall erupted in whispers and a storm rumbled outside. The storm outside Crescent Estate matched the turmoil in Emily Voss's heart as she stood in the banquet hall, Damien Vare's declaration echoing, My mate, chosen by the moon. The words had stunned Moonhaven's elite, and Brandon Thorne's glare from the shadows promised trouble. A sudden crash from the mansion's east wing shattered the moment, pulling Emily's focus. She exchanged a glance with Damien, his eyes sharp with alarm. Stay here, he ordered, his voice a low growl. But Emily followed, her wolf urging her forward. In the corridor, they found shattered glass and a toppled statue. Damien's guards swarmed and Elias the butler appeared, his face pale. Sir, it's not an attack, just the storm. A window broke. Check the grounds, Damien said, his tone clipped. No chances. Emily's heart raced, her senses alert. Something feels off, she whispered to Damien. He nodded, his hand brushing hers briefly. Stay close. Back in their annex, Emily found Michael awake, his sketchbook clutched tight. Em, what was that noise? He asked, his voice small. Just the storm, she said, smoothing his hair. Go back to sleep. But as Michael drifted off, Damien appeared at the door, his expression haunted. Emily, a word, he said, leading her to his study. The room was dim, the storm's howl seeping through the walls. He paced, his usual control fraying. What's wrong? Emily asked, her voice steady despite her worry. My family, he said, his voice raw. This estate. It holds memories. My parents were killed here, years ago. Storms like this, they bring it back. Emily's heart ached. She stepped closer, her hand resting on his arm. You don't have to carry that alone. He looked at her, his eyes vulnerable. I've never let anyone in, but you make me want to try. Then try, she said softly. I'm here. They sat, the storm raging outside, and he spoke of his loss, his voice breaking. Emily listened, her presence a quiet anchor. As thunder roared, she touched his hand, and he pulled her close, their foreheads touching. Thank you, he whispered, his breath warm against her skin. The moment was tender, electric, but a guard's knock interrupted. Sir, the grounds are clear. No threats. Damien nodded, releasing Emily. Get some rest, he said, but his gaze promised more. As she returned to Michael, her wolf hummed, sensing their bond deepening, yet the storm's echo lingered like a warning. Moonlight broke through the storm's clouds as Emily stood by the lakeside where her wolf had first run with Damien's. The banquet's aftermath had left her reeling, but his invitation to meet here felt sacred. She wore the silver gown, its fabric shimmering under the stars. Damien approached, his black suit sharp, a blue diamond ring glinting in his hand. Emily, he said, his voice steady but warm. You've changed me. I was alone, but with you, I'm whole. Be my mate, my Luna, my family. With Michael. Her breath caught, tears pricking her eyes. Damien, I fought alone for so long. You and Michael. You're my home. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, its weight a promise. They kissed, the moon blessing their union, their wolves howling in joy. I'll protect you both, he vowed. Always. They returned to the estate, hand in hand, but the peace shattered. Elias met them at the door, blood on his shirt. Sir, Ms. Voss, the mansion's breached. Intruders. Damien's eyes blazed, his alpha aura surging. Where's Michael? Missing, Elias said, wincing. I tried to stop them. Emily's heart stopped. Brandon Thorne, she spat, her wolf snarling. It's him. Damien mobilized his guards, his voice a command. Find them. Now. To Emily he said, We'll get him back. Together. She nodded, her fear hardening into resolve. As they prepared to hunt, her ring gleamed, a beacon of their unbreakable bond. Emily and Damien raced through Moonhaven's streets in a black SUV, the city a blur of lights and shadows. Michael's kidnapping by Brandon Thorne fueled Emily's rage, her wolf clawing for release. Damien's hand gripped hers, his voice steady. We'll find him, Emily. I swear it. I should have seen this coming, she said, her voice tight. Brandon's obsessed with proving me unworthy. He's a fool, Damien growled, and he'll pay. Their guards tracked Brandon to an abandoned warehouse on Moonhaven's outskirts. Damien devised a plan. Emily as bait, wearing a hidden tracker while he and his elite team surrounded the building. I don't like this, she said, checking the tracker. If he hurts Michael, he won't, Damien said, his eyes fierce. You're my mate. I trust your strength. Inside the warehouse, shadows danced across rusted beams. Brandon stood, a dagger at Michael's throat. Emily, he sneered. You thought you could steal the Alpha's world. Let him go, Brandon, she said, her voice cold. This is between us. You're nothing, he spat, tightening his grip. Michael's eyes were wide but defiant. Before Emily could act, Damien crashed through a skylight, his wolf form massive and black. Brandon shifted, his grey wolf lunging, but Emily transformed, her white wolf joining the fray. Michael, fueled by fear, shifted for the first time, a small white wolf, fierce and wild. Together they overwhelmed Brandon, his body crumpling under their combined strength. Emily shifted back, rushing to Michael, who was human again, trembling but alive. You're okay, she whispered, holding him tight. Damien, bloodied but standing, pulled them close. You're both safe now. As they left the warehouse, Emily's heart steadied, but the council's judgment loomed. 2 days later, Moonhaven's council chamber was a sea of tension. Emily stood beside Damien, her hand in his, Michael at their side, bandaged but proud. The warehouse battle had spread like wildfire, Brandon Thorne's death a shock to the Pax. Elder Rain, a stern figure with silver hair, addressed the room. Brandon, Thorne violated our laws, she said, her voice resonant. Kidnapping, attempted murder. His actions forfeited his protection. The Crescent Pack acted justly. Murmurs rippled, but none dared challenge Damien's glare. Emily squeezed Michael's shoulder, her heart swelling as he stood tall. I'm okay, Em, he whispered. We're a team. Damien stepped forward, his voice commanding. Emily is my Luna, chosen by the moon. Michael is my son, my heir. Any who threaten them face my wrath. The council nodded, and Rain raised a hand. Michael Voss, we name you heir to the Crescent Pack. Your courage binds us. Michael's eyes widened, and he looked at Emily. Did I do good? You did great, she said, tears falling. The chamber erupted in howls, a celebration of unity. As they left, Thomas approached grinning. Voss, you're a legend. Drinks on me? Later, she laughed, her heart light. Back at the estate, Elias greeted them, his wounds healing. You've brought joy to this house, he said, bowing. That night, Emily tucked Michael in, his sketchbook filled with wolves. We're a family now, he said, yawning. Always, she replied, her ring glinting. But as she stepped into the hall, a shadow lingered, hinting at secrets yet uncovered. The ancient oaks of Crescent Estate glowed with silver and midnight blue, transformed for Emily and Damien's wedding. Moonhaven's packs gathered, their loyalty palpable. Emily stood in her quarters, a Valentino gown hugging her frame, its shimmer accentuating her emerald eyes. Michael adjusted his tie, beaming. "Em, you're a star." "You're not bad. Yourself," she teased, hugging him. Elias entered, presenting a bouquet of midnight roses. "From the Alpha," he said. "He's waiting." Outside, Damien stood under the moon, his suit impeccable, his eyes soft with love. The ceremony began, Elder Rain's voice weaving ancient vows. "Damien Vere, do you take Emily as your Luna, your mate, your heart?" "I do," he said, his voice steady. "She's my home, my fire, my forever." Emily's voice trembled but held. "I take you, Damien, as my partner, my strength. With Michael, we're whole." The packs howled, sealing their bond. Damien's bite, gentle yet binding, marked her as his mate, their souls entwined. They kissed, the moon their witness, as joy radiated through the crowd. In their chamber, bathed in candlelight, Damien held her close. "You've given me peace," he whispered, his fingers tracing her ring. "And you've given me hope," she replied, their kiss deepening, a promise of forever. The next morning, they woke to Michael's laughter, his gift, a sketch of their wolves, black and white, with a smaller one between. "Our pack," he said, grinning.